What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team career mode. This time we're at the French Grand Prix, and it's back on the calendar after taking a year out in my second season in Formula 1. It is returning for another crack, and in Season 1 this track didn't go very well. I think we finished basically last, despite the fact that there were some issues with other cars. It was back in the time when there was some real problems with sort of the balance of the AI and all that kind of stuff. So we were finding it a real struggle to contend with the cars around us back then. Now, obviously, they fixed some of those issues. I still have a bit of an issue when it comes to things like traction and stuff like that compared to the AI around me. But all in all, I'm hoping for a stronger performance this time out. In previous years' games, this has been one of my strongest tracks in the game. I think in F1 2020, it was where I got my first career win, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I would quite like to see us do somewhat well here, especially riding the high of the win that we got in the Austrian Grand Prix last time out. If you haven't seen that video yet, I would absolutely recommend going and watching it. We started way down the order, built our way back into the pack during the sprint, and then managed to capitalize on a mid-race safety car to propel us up into first place. We also had an incredible performance from Enzo Fittipaldi, who was very selfless and put everything on the line to allow us to get the maximum gambit of points that we could from that race, and we duly did. So yeah, fantastic result. We're now starting to work on upgrading our chassis facility to Spec 3. This will allow us to get some ultimate chassis upgrades on the car, which will enable our car to go even faster, ideally through the corners, but will also remove some of the weight from the car, allowing it to be a little bit faster in the straights as well. Obviously, engine power is the primary driver of straight line speed, and that's the last thing we're prioritizing. But when we do, the car will be an absolute rocket. We don't have any of our ultimate aero upgrades on the car, but they're both coming. They will be on the car in time for Belgium, which is the next race, and yeah, hopefully we will have a maxed out aero package by sort of Monza, but ideally no later than sort of Singapore, Japan if we can, and then we can finish the last few races of the season on a very, very strong note, hopefully. Yeah, so French Grand Prix this time around, and yeah, like I said, really the name of the game is just how well can we do? You know, can we finish sort of, you know, top 5? That's always the aim at the moment. That's our extended sponsor target. Obviously, we have a sponsor goal of outperforming a rival as well, and that's not always easy, especially now that my rival is Sergio Perez. For some reason, the game really just doesn't feel like giving me an easy ride when it comes to the rivals. We had Verstappen in the beginning of the season, then we were up against Sainz, and now we're up against Perez. So I can only assume that at the end of the season, we're probably going to go up against Leclerc or someone like that. Eventually, I will win these rivalries, but I still don't think the car is there, unfortunately. Practice, it started raining, but it was dry when I actually set my laps, and I have to say, on the face of this, the pace isn't looking too promising. You know, we got outperformed on the medium tyres by a Williams, a Haas, and an Alfa Romeo. So yeah, it's not looking too amazing for us. So hopefully we can improve at least a little bit off the back of that. We can't quite afford this final aero upgrade on the car just yet, but after the next practice session, or maybe at some point over the course of the summer break, which is coming up after this race, we will be able to get one more aero upgrade on the car, and that will enable us to have maxed out our aero package once all of those upgrades are on the car. But that might take a little bit of time to install all of those. Actually, one of them failed though, so we will have to redevelop that, and that will get on the car over the course of the summer break as well. So yeah, the one that we were hoping, the one that we rushed in the hopes that it might get on the car in time for now, isn't on the car, and so we have to wait a little bit. There's going to be 5 chassis upgrades to do once we get the Spec 3 for that, and also 5 engine upgrades, although I think a couple of those could be supplier, so there might only be 3 or so of those. There's a few durability upgrades we haven't done that we have unlocked, but I'm prioritizing making the car go faster before I make it more reliable. We've had a few DNFs this season, but it's not been so drastic that it's been cause for concern. You know, it's only been, I think, 2 races this season where we've had DNFs, which in 12 is certainly a lot better than we were looking at other times in previous seasons. I concede that obviously in season 1 we started having a few more DNFs around this point in the season, around sort of Hungary, Belgium, all of those races were DNFs basically for the team. But I have the utmost faith that hopefully that probably won't happen this time around. Well, there is no Hungarian Grand Prix this year. Okay, so we in qualifying 2 set a 1:37.5, and that was good enough to take us P3 for now, and we will be progressing through to Q3. Unfortunately, Enzo Fittipaldi did not make it through to Q3, but he did make it into Q2 again, which is always good to see. And that's the baseline goal I've been setting for him, is Q2 in just about every race, and he's been living up to those expectations, so that's good to see. Now we're in Q3, and we're going to see if we can set a competitive time. First lap was a 1:39.9, and the track hasn't really improved since then. It's improved like a tiny bit, but not really enough for us to be super extra competitive, so I think we might be settling for P8 here, especially because Perez is 6/10 ahead of us. The only person that we're looking like we might be able to get ahead of here is Esteban Ocon, but that's not a guarantee either. It entirely depends on how much we improve by, and at the look of what we're doing at the moment, it doesn't look like we will be, unfortunately. So yeah, I think it's going to just be P8 for us. Not the perfect qualifying, but certainly a lot better than it was looking after practice. So I'll take it, and we will see if we can fight from there, maybe forward a few positions to get sort of maybe P6, P5. That would be the ideal scenario for us. And yeah, grab sort of 10 points to minimize the impact that the cars around us are going to have on us for the Drivers' Championship, of which we're still in P3. And honestly, I think my agenda has very much become, can I hold on to P3 for the remainder of the season? With only 10 races to go, it's very much up in the air, but it's looking ever more likely the more that we get through there. So yeah, Perez out-qualifies us in our first qualifying session as rivals, but there's still plenty of opportunity to get back at him, including in the race upcoming. So we would ideally like a good performance there to hopefully get ahead in this rivalry, and maybe start actually winning these rivalries and gaining a bit more acclaim off the back of that. We are now Team Acclaim level 22. We're only 3 acclaim levels away from reaching level 25, which is going to enable us to get more sponsors on the car. It's at this point that you have to wonder, would it be worth doing another marketing upgrade to get that to boost our Team Acclaim even further? But I'm not sure, because obviously if you boost the Team Acclaim to the 25 and you can get another sponsor bonus on the car, you're going to get more money quicker, so you might get a return on your investment if you do it that way. But also the argument can be made that if you finish higher up, you'll get more money from getting a better performance in your car. So yeah, it's a bit of a trade-off. At the end of the day, everything kind of adds up to one another. Anyway, now it's time to get into the race, and we will see what we can do.
We are again then at Le Castellet for another round of this year's Formula One World Championship. Renault took their first French Grand Prix win all the way back in the inaugural race in 1906, but it was another 73 years before they could take their second. I'm sure Alpine will be pushing hard to delight the local fans here today. Mastering a lap of Paul Ricard means getting to know 15 corners. 6 go to the left and 9 go to the right, for an overall lap distance of 3.6 miles. The 2 halves of the long Mistral straight are separated by a heavy braking zone into a potential overtaking hotspot at the chicane. And watch out for drivers running onto the distinctive coloured stripes, which are low in grip and highly abrasive. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Sainz, Russell, Fernando Alonso, and Perez, Ocon, Robinson, Lundgaard, and Pierre Gasly, Ricciardo, Verstappen, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, Fittipaldi, Schwartzman, Mick Schumacher, Alex Albon, and Yuki Tsunoda. Magnussen, Stroll, Joe, and Nicholas Latifi. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It'll keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
Right, so it looks like there's no alternative strategy we can go on, so we'll be starting on the mediums, and there are a few cars ahead of us starting on the soft compound tyres, so that's not fantastic. It means that we probably will be suffering on the strategy at least a little bit here compared to the cars ahead of us, if nothing else. I don't know about any cars further adrift of Gasly, but it does mean at least the cars immediately behind us probably won't be challenging us too hard. Christian Lundgaard has done a brilliant job to be as high up as P9, so we'll see if he can maybe get his first points finish in F1, and then that will be all of the drivers in this on this grid will have finished in the points at some point. Lundgaard is the only one now that Schwartzman has had a couple points finishes. As the lights come on and the lights go out, here we go. So we get a pretty good start, but Ocon obviously in the second phase is going to get away with us with those fresher tyres. We're being challenged to the inside by Christian Lundgaard here, and also Ricciardo on the soft compound tyres has had a pretty good start behind us, and he'll be attacking us into the first few sequence of corners as we pull off a bit of a gutsy overtake to be able to get back ahead of Lundgaard. That moves him back behind Gasly, and it's all heating up behind us right now. Perez is driving all over the place, knocking bollards out. There's clearly some wheel-to-wheel action going on here, which I'm going to try and capitalize on if I can, as we make a move around the outside of Ocon and we go up into P7. And now I think things between Russell, Alonso and Perez have settled a little bit. I might be able to catch up with them, but there's also the more likely scenario that they're going to start pulling away from us now. I think Ocon's looking for a way back through now. They're challenging each other again, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a way through here. They get a bit of a better traction, better exit from the corner, and that's all for now. As someone has come into the pits there, I think that's Max Verstappen. He must have had some kind of damage on the opening lap, maybe from some contact or something like that. As Esteban Ocon is going to have a look up our inside here. We're going to go to the outside and then we'll defend to the inside of the following corner. But he's going to do the switchback on us, and he gets a much better exit than we do on those soft compound tyres. And that was all he needed to get ahead of us there and back up into P7. So we fall to our initial starting position of P8 once again, and it will be a bit of a challenge to get him back now that he's started drifting away a bit more. We have Hamilton and Ricciardo behind us now as we come to start lap 3, and we're no doubt going to be under pressure from the both of them as we come into the start of the lap. Hamilton's going to attack us into the first corner, but we're going to hold on to the position for now. We actually get a bit wobbly as we come through the second sequence of corners, and I think Ricciardo is now closing down Hamilton as well. And yeah, we just about managed to hold the position there, but Ricciardo is now moved back up into P9. I thought that Ricciardo might have made a bit of contact with me there. I didn't hear it on that occasion, but I did check. And I think I must have been right when I was playing without audio, because Ricciardo has drastically fallen off the back of me in this time. He's now 1.5 seconds down, and he comes into the pits. So I can only assume that he did have some kind of contact, either, if not with me, he must have had it with Hamilton. I'm sure I felt it, but maybe it was just a thing that I assumed it might have happened because he was so close to me. And yeah, that's probably Ricciardo not being too much of a presence in this race for us anymore, as we get our first track limits warning for extending the track. We need to be careful with that. There's still 23 laps to go. We don't want to get a penalty, so we're going to have to do everything in our power to try and stay on the track if at all possible. Now we're going to be under pressure from Hamilton, who is behind us, and he is going to close us down rapidly. He'll have the DRS, he'll have the battery. I'm not going to fight this too hard. I don't think I'm going to have much to fight him with. On this occasion, it's a very long straight as we make a bit of contact there as I try to defend him and just misjudge it a little bit. I think about going around the outside of him, but he positions his car in a perfect way, which means there was really no way of getting back ahead of him. And so far, all we've really done in this race is fall down the order. Fittipaldi is all the way up into 11th, so he's having a pretty good race. If he can make up one more position, he could be on for a points finish as well. He is, always on the fringes at the moment, which is nice to see, but Lundgaard is quite significantly far ahead of him now, so I think it's going to be unlikely for him to get points unless a car in front of us has some kind of issue later in the race. We've got Hamilton, Alonso and Sainz all coming into the pits. They've come off the soft compound tyres and they're moving on to the mediums, so they're obviously on a different strategy to us. They're doing soft medium, whereas we're doing medium hard, and getting that chassis upgrade is going to be really useful, I think, because primarily one thing it'll be good at is the tyre wear upgrade that will allow us to hopefully be on some of these aggressive strategies that the top 5 teams can be on, because they have significantly better cars than we do. As everyone else now has come into the pits, I think, apart from Leclerc, who, if I'm not mistaken, started on the medium compound tyres, so I guess it makes sense as to why he hasn't pitted yet and why he's showing as being so far ahead of us. But everyone else now has come in, and we are doing exactly the same thing. So yeah, we come into the pits, and hopefully we can get a quick stop. We're going to be coming onto the medium tyres and going to the end of the race, and we'll see if we can contend with the other cars who were around us before the pit stop phase. Primarily Lundgaard is the one that we've got to worry about. But I think we were just about far enough ahead of him to the point that it won't be too much of a concern. He hasn't come in yet, so hopefully we can extend the gap even further between me and him on our outlap, do somewhat of an undercut to increase the gap between myself and him. Verstappen is 4 seconds up the road, but he did pit very early in the race, so I think he might be pitting again. And I think currently we're still in net P9 by the looks of things after everything's shaken out. But RICARD is only 3 seconds behind us, so we're going to have to do everything we can to hopefully keep him behind, and try and do what we can to consolidate P9. Hopefully, you see we've now moved on to lap 16, 17, and we are kind of maintaining the gap in both directions. Ricciardo hasn't really closed us down, and Hamilton hasn't really closed us up any either. Lundgaard down in P11 at the moment, and if he can catch up to Ricciardo, then he could be looking at his first points in Formula 1, and it would be nice to see him do that. You know, I still root for him even though we're not on the same team anymore, because he was my first driver here at Jaguar Racing, before we had Schwartzman and then Fittipaldi and then Piastri, and now Fittipaldi again is signed for a full season on this occasion. And there's a very good chance that we could be signing Fittipaldi even further into the future, if the rumours are to be believed. Unfortunately, this is Christian Lundgaard now. You see that just 4 laps before the end, despite the fact that he was running in P11 and on the fringes of the points, fate was not kind to him on this occasion, and it was even more cruel considering Carlos Sainz, who is here running in what I think is P4, has unfortunately been the victim of a DNF as well, which would have promoted Lundgaard up into P10 had he not had that DNF. And Verstappen is very far afield, so I think there's kind of no doubt that Lundgaard would have been able to get that P10. So that's incredibly unfortunate for him. Meanwhile, we've maintained the gap this whole time to Ricciardo. Hamilton has done nothing but extend the gap out front. We're 7 seconds down on him. We got promoted up 1 position from the Sainz DNF, which put us into P8. But all in all, this race, nothing too drastic really happened. After the initial beginning, it was kind of just a very sort of, head down Sunday drive type of race, and those can be nice sometimes. Like I say, I'm always kind of gunning for one of those races when I'm racing, because it's a lot less stressful than being under attack the whole time. My favourite types of races are obviously the ones where I'm pulling off lots of overtakes, but I'm always happy to cross the line for P8 in a very chilled, relaxed race. So not quite the result we wanted this weekend, but once I saw the pace of all the other cars, I kind of knew that was the best we were going to get, and I think we did a pretty good job to hold on to that. Verstappen somehow gets driver of the day. and I think it was a Norris win in the end. So, yeah, extending the championship even further for him, and kind of getting a bit out of sight at this point, I think.
Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team strategies. They got all those things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure. And no doubt, they'll be celebrating tonight.
So yeah, Norris and Leclerc make it onto the podium, as well as my rival Perez. So once again, it's a situation where it's the three people I'd least like to see on the Formula 1 podium right now, all making it, and that's kind of an indictment about how this season has been going for us, really. That just at every twist and turn, it's felt like we, you know, for all the highs we've had this season, they're swiftly followed by some brutal lows. And like I said, by this point in the season, this is as competitive as I expected us to be. But we didn't have a strong enough start to the season compared to what I would have wanted. We won 3 of the first 4 races. Ideally, we needed to win 6 of the first 7 races, and it didn't quite happen that way. So we're now 70 points adrift of the title, and I mean, that is, we could win every race, and Norris could get 2 DNFs, and he would still be on top. Yeah, that is true as well. If we won every race and Leclerc got P2 in every race, and Norris had 3 DNFs, he would still be on the top of the table. Norris is almost single-handedly putting McLaren in a Constructors' Championship fight there as well, because Ricciardo has done very little this season. Not that he does much or has done much in any of these seasons, but yeah, I wonder if Ricciardo's not long for this season, or not long for this series, I should say, in terms of his position. Maybe he'll retire soon. I always like to speculate who's going to retire. I think the most likely candidates are Alonso, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Perez, and then probably closely followed by Sainz and Magnussen, and you know, some of those sort of aged drivers, maybe Albon, and I don't know who else is around that sort of age. I think everyone else is probably too young to retire in this save, but I've been wrong before about that kind of thing. I had my friends tell me that in their co-op career mode, apparently Lance Stroll retired. So that was interesting news to discover. And yeah, more than anything, if Alonso continues beyond this point, that would just be even more shocking to me, because that will be, you know, he'll be 45 by that point, I want to say, which would be the oldest Formula 1 driver since probably the 1970s, if I had to guess. Maybe 1980s, I don't know off the top of my head, but certainly in a very long time. I feel like they don't really last much longer than 40, if even to 40. So yeah, there was the contact with Ricciardo. It was in fact me that hit him, but I don't really know how I could have avoided that. I think he dived very recklessly up the inside, so I'm not going to take too much responsibility for that. And yeah, I think all in all, this was just one of those races that's just like, it happens, and at the end of the season, you don't really think too hard about it. Maybe I could look back at it as sort of a race to forget, in terms of we didn't finish quite where we'd want to. Maybe I'd have ideally finished a couple more positions up the order, but there's not really much you can do when you just don't have the pace to contend, especially at a track like France, which has such a long back straight. You know, you're never going to be able to defend into that straight. You've just got to kind of take the good with the bad and see what happens, and hopefully we can bounce back in Belgium, which is a track I've yet to finish a race at. Despite doing 2 times, I've DNF'd there on both occasions. I think it's the only track in the whole calendar, apart from Portugal, which I only raced at once. It's the only track in the whole calendar where I have yet to finish a race. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we are capable of hopefully closing it out on this occasion. We get 2 of our sponsor bonuses, so it's not the end of the world. And yeah, hopefully we can get some more chassis facility upgrades on the car soon. But anyway, that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.